like a christening. You get up off to your home, I'ma split it all, don't say I'll take out your green. Bitch, get your whole damn team. One hit my shit like a fiend. My shopper got low down self-esteem. Set afraid to showing y'all green bean.
Yo, what is poppin', people, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy OutofOrder, and welcome back to the After Effects tutorial series, where I teach you guys as much as I can about After Effects. And in this tutorial, guys, I'm going to be teaching you how to sync clips with timer mapping. Also, my editing pack is for sale, so if you want to support me and get sweet access to some project files and presets and a bunch of other cool stuff, feel free to check it out in the description down below. But anyway, guys, I got some CSGO clips right here. These clips are 300 FPS. They have depth, green screen, and all that cool stuff. But we're going to be only using the world clip here. These clips are kind of old. They're from like over a year ago. So they're not the best clips. As you can see, these cinematics are actually pretty terrible. But nevertheless, we're going to be editing this clip. So let's get into the basics on syncing. So if you're an absolute beginner, I'm just going to give you a fair warning. Syncing is probably one of the hardest things to master in editing, if not the hardest thing to master. But everyone's syncing is different, and when you're syncing clips, you typically want to develop your own style. So that's what we're going to be doing here. I'm just going to be showing you how to sync basically for beginners. But if you're an advanced user, you could still follow along and you might learn something new. So to start things off, I'm going to play the clip right here and you can hear the song, and then this is what we're going to be syncing to. Okay, so that's basically it. So we're gonna get started on syncing already. Now, the first thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to make sure you have a song import or like some audio to sync to. And so I got my song here by my friend Saber. His SoundCloud will be in the description if you want to check it out. But we're just gonna select the audio layer, press L twice on the keyboard, and that'll bring up this audio waveform. Now, by default, your audio layer will probably look something like this, and if you want to get it to look a little better, you can just right-click on your composition and uncheck rectified audio waveforms, and this will make it look something like this. So to begin syncing, you're going to want to place a few markers. Some people skip this step. I skip this step sometimes when I'm really lazy, but you're essentially just going to want to place markers on each beat that you're going to want to sync to. Now, some people do colored markers as well. I've seen people do like specific color markers for hi-hats, snares, kicks, you know, stuff like that basically. But honestly, I don't really think it matters unless you're trying to like do some insane stuff. But for the beginner tutorial, we're just going to be doing one single like color, you know, for the waveforms, because we're not going to be doing snares and all that stuff. We'll still be marking them, but we're not gonna like go into super detail on that. But anyway, you're just gonna want to place audio waveforms on the beats, play it out, make sure it sounds all right, and make sure it's synced up properly, and you should be good to go. Okay, so I basically added markers to every single beat already. It didn't take too long. And another thing I want to point out is that you can also label your markers by double clicking on them. So if you want to do some like, you know, super, I guess, good planning, like if you want to, you know, type spinny transition and then, you know, insert spinny transition there for when you're working on it later, you can do that as well. I do that sometimes, but, you know, again, not often. But yeah, once you're done adding markers, now it's time for the fun part, which is actually syncing. So for syncing, this is how I do my syncing. A lot of people do it differently. Some people, you know, do it some other way. Some people keep it on one layer or one track. What I like to do is split the clips. So we're going to find where the guy shoots. So he shoots right here. We're going to split this clip right here. And then we're going to go on to the next part where he shoots again. And we're going to split that as well. So right there, we already got some kind of syncing down. And then you're just going to want to place the shots on the markers. Now you want to strategically place it. You don't want to just place it anywhere. You know, you don't want to have two shots right back to back unless it's, you know, unless it fits well. But for the most part, you kind of want to like space out your shots, you know, do shot here, cinematic maybe, or effect here, you know, just stuff like that. So we're just going to play out this clip here and see where to sync it to. Oh yeah, and I also forgot to mention, you can also cut out the animations too. So if you want to have a draw animation like this and then have it clip to a scope in effect, you can do that. So that's what we're gonna do here. I'll show you more about that later. So after looking at this for a bit, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking we started off with a player cinematic here, another one here, a draw cinematic here, a scope here, and then the shoot here. That's what I'm thinking of doing. So we're gonna do that right now. So since we already split the clips, this makes it a little bit easier, but I'm gonna place the shooting on this beat right here, and then I'm gonna place the gun draw animation here, so it'll look something like this. I'm gonna split this clip here by Control Shift D here, and then in this empty space we're gonna do a scope effect. So let's do something like that already. Let's just add, you know, a little scope here. And now some people will freeze frame it. Personally, I don't really like freeze framing scopes, but if you want to, I guess you can. It doesn't really look that good. I recommend time remapping, but I'll teach you that later in the video. So we're just gonna layer our clips out until we get something that we like. So okay, so that took about 20 seconds or so. I've already basically laid out the clips and stuff, so you're just gonna want to cut your clips to the beats and stuff. We're not gonna do syncing just yet, but make sure your clips are just laid out, so it'll look something like this. Okay, so that's what we got so far. Now it's time to actually get to the syncing part. So for syncing clips, this is how I do it. What I'll do is I'll find 2 sync points, so these 2 right here. And then what I'll do is I'll find the part that I want to be shown the most in the middle. So if I want a majority of the clip to be of this guy's back, I'll put it in the middle rather than doing something like, I don't know, like something like this, you know, instead of doing something like that. Now we're gonna press Control-Alt-T. So once you do Control-Alt-T, it'll enable time remapping. And what I like to do is I like to place a keyframe at the start of the clip, at the end of the clip, in the middle, and then delete the other 2 remaining keyframes that were there at the start, unless it's at the beginning of the clip. If you're doing the beginning of like the clip, then you don't need to delete it, otherwise it'll screw everything up. But anyway, once you get your keyframes, so I made 3 keyframes right here, we can go select them all, F9, and then click this button right here to go into the graph editor. Now by default it's gonna look terrible, so I'll play it right here. Now ignoring that, we're gonna try and make it look better, and to make it look better, it's a little bit harder because there's so many different types of velocity and like time remapping you can do. So I'm just gonna be teaching you the very basic one. So the very basic one is basically a parabola rotated 90 degrees. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna make a basic parabola, which will look something like this right here. So now that we made a parabola, now I'm gonna teach you basically how exactly time remapping works. So basically, the steeper, or I guess you could say the more the line is on the y-axis, like the more up or down it's going, the faster the clip is going to be. So if you have like a really flat surface like this, it's going to be really slow. So this clip right here, for example, it starts off fast, goes slow, and then fast again. Now you don't always have to do this for every single clip, otherwise it'll get pretty repetitive. So you can do something like this. Maybe you can spice it up by, I don't know, deleting the middle keyframe, doing something like this. Even that might work on some clips. Or you could do the opposite and do something like, I don't know, deleting the middle keyframe and doing something like, I don't know, this or something, having it start off slow and then slowly increasing. I don't know, just get creative with it. Just try and make it flow. That's basically the most important part. You want to have flow, you don't want it to be too repetitive, and you overall just want it to match with the song's like BPM. You can also add more points if you want to, but most people do either 3 or 4 time remapping. I don't really know people that like do like, you know, like 7 or 8, you know. Nobody does this, all right? Nobody just puts keyframes on every single frame and then does something like, I don't know, this and then pew, pew. You know what I mean, bro? Nobody does that. No one's gonna do time remap like this, unless you're some really experienced glitch editor. I don't really see anyone doing this. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that this last keyframe isn't always visible, because if you put the keyframe at the very end of the clip, you're not going to be able to see it because it'll go into the next clip. This is both good and bad. This is good because it keeps it flowing if you do your time remapping like this, but if you want to see that keyframe for some reason, you can move it 1 to the left and something like this, but make sure you lower it, because if you have it too high on the second to last frame, it's gonna be way too fast. This also applies to the beginning frame as well. If you want the velocity or time remap to overall be slower, you're gonna want to lower the end keyframe and you're gonna want to raise the start keyframe. So I already lowered the end keyframe there. Now we're just gonna raise the start keyframe, lower this a little bit, and then make it more, you know, like that maybe, and then let's play it. So as you can see, it's a lot slower now. Now this is good for making slow edits, but if you're really doing slow edits, like super slow edits, I recommend using like BCC velocity remap and not time remap. Now a lot of people ask me what I prefer. Do I prefer time remapping or like BCC velocity or Twixtor? And to answer that question, I use both in my edit. For me, when I'm editing fast clips, I prefer time remap, and when I'm editing slow clips, I prefer velocity. But honestly, it all depends on, you know, your editing style. So since this is way too slow, we're gonna adjust it. We're gonna bring this up a little bit, bring this down a little bit, and then maybe make this a little bit flatter, maybe make it to the side a bit so it has more like exponential, I guess, gain at the start. So you just want to keep playing with your velocity and time remap until you get something that looks good. Now velocity is super hard to master, keep in mind. It takes a lot of people a lot of time to get this right, and I personally don't really have good velocity, but with some practice you'll eventually get somewhere and it will eventually look good. So once you do the time remap on your first clip, you basically want to repeat the process for every clip. Now that may take a very long time. Velocity is not a short process. Also keep in mind that each clip is going to be very different when syncing. So for example, CSGO clips are super different than editing Call of Duty clips, because with CSGO clips, it lacks animations. There's no scope in animation, there's no scope out animation, nothing like that. However, this also doesn't mean that you can't make a good edit, because with enough practice, I'm telling you guys, you can make a decent edit. Okay, so I already did time remapping on the second clip. Now I'm going to teach you a new trick when it comes to time remapping. So we're going to use this scope in, this little, or not scoping, sorry, this little, I guess, animation draw. We're gonna use this as an example. So let's say you want a different point of interest. Let's say the middle keyframe you placed isn't exactly where you want it. How do you fix that? So here's a good example. I want the op bolt to be completely drawn out when this clip plays. So to do that, we're gonna select all the keyframes you have. I only have 2 keyframes because I haven't really done the velocity yet. I just placed these and then like made it like that. But basically to do that, you're just gonna select all your keyframes and then move the whole thing up or down, depending on where you want the clip to be. So here I want the clip to have the op completely, like the bolt to be completely pulled back. So we're gonna lift it up until that point is where it is. So yeah, here we go. Here we have it. Once we do that, then we can place the middle keyframe, or if you already have it placed, then you can start editing it. And we're pretty much all set. That's how to change the position of time on your clip. Okay guys, so it's been 5 minutes and I finished doing velocity on all the other clips. We're gonna take a look at it and then I'll tell you my final thoughts. Yeah. So as you can see, it's pretty synced now. It's not perfect, alright? The velocity on this isn't that good. It's like, meh, alright? It's not that good velocity. But nevertheless, it's still kind of synced up. Now, it'll look a whole lot better with effects, pan crop, shakes, all that stuff, which we'll be covering in future videos. So yeah, in the next video, I'll probably be continuing this clip with pan crop and stuff. But that's been the tutorial, guys. That's how to sync with time remap. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also, be sure to check out my editing pack in the description down below. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll catch you guys in the next one, bros. Peace. Yeah. Keep it on you in the thick of the night. The reaper coming for you, creeping outside. If it will fry you, feel the sights through your blinds. Whoa.